Theirs was a textbook romance between a young co-ed with a promising future
She had her whole life ahead of her.
and a dashing young man who swore to love her till death do they part.
They seem very happy living with one another and honeymooning and things of that nature. No problems, no issues, no nothing.
But less than a year after their sacred vows, an inexplicable crime shattered their lives.
She had been stabbed. It was a bloodbath.
Why? Why her? Why anybody? But definitely why her?
To unmask a killer, police would have to navigate a twisted path of sexual obsession, betrayal, and lies.
It was passionate, it was hot, and it was dangerous.
You just couldn't make this up if you tried.
You have a killer who is enraged, maybe even deranged or psychotic.
Wednesday, January 30th, 2008, 7:30 a.m. It's a cold winter morning in Raleigh, North Carolina. But as the sun rises over the city, morning commuters spot something alongside Interstate 540 that takes their breath away.
Several drivers headed west on I-540 noticed what appeared to be a body off to the side of the road.
As 911 calls pour into dispatch, first responders race to the scene.
16197.
There, they find a young woman lying in the grass. But sadly, it's much too late. She's dead.
The first thought that authorities probably had was that she was perhaps a pedestrian. Maybe she got hit by accident on the side of the road.
But when police take a closer look at the woman's body, they quickly realize this is no ordinary accident.
No, she's not been hit. She's been stabbed.
Okay, I'll get major crimes.
They can see that she has been stabbed repeatedly about her face and throat. It's apparent that she has been murdered.
This case caught the attention of people in this area because we don't have many murders. We especially don't have many murders of women. When it was reported that a woman was found dead on the side of a highway, a brand new highway, a highway that many people drive back and forth to work every day, people were shocked.
Who exactly is this woman? And how did she get here? After covering the body and cordoning off the crime scene, investigators searched the area for clues. But there's no trace of a murder weapon, nor are there any eyewitnesses to the crime.
They had canvassed the whole area, asking drivers if anybody had seen anything. But this was basically along a stretch of very busy highway.
One of those commuters is a man named Darren Curtis. At approximately 7:45 a.m., he drives by the crime scene and, like many, slows down to take a look.
On his way to work on I-540, Darren notices traffic is backed up. He passes the crime scene. He sees a body under a blue tarp.
Darren drives on, but a minute later, he sees something that prompts him to pull over.
Just a half mile later, he spots a white car, strongly resembling his wife's, on the side of the road.
Darren's curiosity quickly turns to panic. The vehicle definitely belongs to his wife, Latrice. Frantic, Darren Curtis goes back to the crime scene he just passed.
As he walks back to the crime scene, he's stopped by a detective.
Detectives confirm Darren's worst fear. The deceased woman is indeed his wife, beautiful 21-year-old Latrice Curtis. Darren isn't the only one to feel the stinging loss. Latrice's father soon learns the devastating news.
I've got some really bad news. Latrice is dead.
Tore me up, man. Tore me to pieces. All kind of things went through my head, man. I didn't know whether to be mad. I didn't know who to start blaming. Like, okay, this is a dream. Okay, we're gonna wake up in a minute and it's gonna be over with, man.
But it's not a dream. It's a nightmare. One that's just beginning to unfold. As police attempt to uncover the truth, they'll descend into a world of dark secrets and twisted fantasies.
They had this extramarital, possibly salacious, risque relationship.
It seemed that everyone in this case was keeping secrets. And I mean everyone.
Latrice Curtis grew up in a loving home full of big brothers.
Being the only girl, she got the special attention. She got to get away with things that the boys never got away with. They thought I was show favoritism a lot. because the things that I used to get on to them about, it was like a slap on the hand for Latrice.
That was my father's. I can say that was his pride and joy. His baby girl, Latrice.
Blessed with good looks and an infectious smile, Latrice was one of the most popular girls in high school.
Latrice was always a people person. She could just walk up to you and just start a conversation. She was just adorable.
It was no surprise that Latrice had more than her fair share of male admirers, but this driven young woman always put her education first.
Latrice was a good student. She just wanted to succeed.
That hard work paid off when Latrice was accepted into a local college in Raleigh. And it was during her very first semester that she met a dashing and ambitious accounting student named Darren Curtis.
Excuse me. Is it okay if I sit here? Sure.
They seem to mesh with each other pretty well.
What are you working on?
Something for my psychology class, not a major.
What do you have for psych this year?
Dr. Brown.
I'm sorry.
Latrice and Darren instantly hit it off, and it wasn't long before the studious pair became an item.
It was definitely special. It was different in every way. She loved him.
Evidently, this thing had been going on for a while, and I think Mom knew about it, but they never told me because they knew what my reaction would be to it. She said, Dad, I got a young man or a guy I want you to meet.
Would you want to come with me? Grab a bite?
I think what got him over mostly with me was that he was military.
Yeah, I like that.
Soon after Darren and Latrice started dating, she introduced him to her family. Right away, they could tell there was something different about Darren. A former National Guard soldier, he was respectful, mature, and quickly won them over.
When I first met him, I have that brother-sister kind of thing going on. After I spoke with him, my perception of him actually changed. You know, he was a really good kid.
Did you have fun tonight?
I did.
Good.
I enjoyed myself.
Latrice and Darren were so head over heels in love that just 1 year into their relationship, they decided they should spend the rest of their lives together.
Latrice, will you marry me?
Yes!
Not long after, Darren and Latrice officially tied the knot.
They did it kind of like a courthouse style, very simple, very plain, and just went ahead and got it out of the way. She seemed very happy.
After saying I do, the couple moved into a cozy apartment, and Latrice transferred to prestigious North Carolina Central University in nearby Durham to finish her degree in business administration. While the vivacious co-ed easily fit in her new school, juggling her classes, her commute, and the pressures of a new marriage wasn't easy. But despite their long hours apart, Latrice seemed ecstatic about her and Darren's future together.
She was just starting out her life, her married life, her professional life. She was really just somebody that had her whole future ahead of her.
But on the morning of January 30th, 2008, just 9 short months after her wedding day, that future is severed in the most horrific way imaginable.
Latrice Curtis was carved up. She was attacked viciously. There's no question about that.
This is a senseless, shocking crime. I mean, who in the world would do something like this?
We couldn't do nothing but either pray, hold each other.
As police expand the search for Latrice's killer, what they don't know is that this search will lead them into a world of sex, lies, and hidden desires, where it seems everyone has something to hide. College students Darren and Latrice Curtis shared a love that knew no bounds. But just 9 months into their marriage, their lives were torn apart when police found Latrice brutally stabbed to death on the side of a North Carolina interstate. Surprisingly, one of the first people at the scene was her husband, Darren.
He actually drove out by the scene and saw his wife's car out there.
While first responders try and console Darren, investigators begin processing the bloody scene.
Latrice Curtis was brutally assaulted in this homicide. She was stabbed upwards of 40 times about her face, her neck, her chest, her torso. Her carotid artery was slashed open. Her jugular vein was slashed open. Her vocal cords were cut.
This was a crime where somebody was angry. There was rage. She had 40 stab wounds. They believed that she had been pinned down while this altercation was going on.
Man, she's got 20 or 30 stab wounds.
I mean, it didn't look like it's a robbery. She's got her earring.
Although investigators still have no idea what prompted Latrice's violent death, one thing is certain.
Look at her hands.
Yeah, looks like she's been fighting. You see the skin?
She hadn't gone down without a fight.
Looks like there's been a struggle.
Hey, man, can you bag the hands? Yeah. Thank you.
The victim's fingernails were examined, and it was pretty clear that there was some injury or damage to her nails.
As CSIs bagged Latrice's hands, detectives head a half-mile down the interstate to the location of Latrice's abandoned vehicle. It's immediately apparent that a struggle has taken place inside.
The center console is broken, and it looks like blood is on the driver's side door.
But what is Latrice's car doing so far away from her body? An examination of the vehicle suggests someone other than Latrice drove her car last.
There was a DNA sample left on Latrice's car on the steering wheel.
While CSI send the DNA evidence they collected from both Latrice's car and her fingernails to the state crime lab for analysis, detectives ponder the killer's possible motive.
The question really is, who would want to hurt her and who would want to kill her so violently and so brutally?
It's the same question Latrice's heartbroken family is asking.
Why? Why her? Why anybody? But definitely why her?
Latrice Curtis was a 21-year-old girl. She worked full-time. She had no enemies to speak of. She was a student. The question really is, who would want to hurt her and who would want to kill her so violently?
Is it possible Latrice had been the tragic victim of a random crime? To investigators, that theory seems unlikely.
When a person is murdered in a way like this, it looks so personal, so filled with hate.
You don't need to stab someone 40 times to kill them. So if you're stabbing someone 40 times, you are enraged, you are angry, you have very strong emotions about this person.
But just who could be that angry with a good girl like Latrice? With her family at a loss, police turn to the man closest to Latrice, her husband, Darren.
Well, Darren Curtis is questioned by the police in this case because he is the husband of the victim. So that's sort of law enforcement investigation 101.
When was the last time you talked to your wife?
Darren explains that the last time he'd spoken to his wife was the previous evening around 10 p.m.
How did she seem to you? Was she upset or normal?
She seemed fine.
She calls her husband to say, I'm running late from school and I'm going to get something to eat, so I'll be late getting home.
Around 11:30, Darren goes to sleep. He hasn't heard from his wife, Latrice, but figures she may have gone to eat at her family's home and perhaps just stayed there.
Darren says that when he woke up the next morning, he telephoned Latrice, but the call went straight to voicemail.
Just calling to check on you, making sure you're okay. If you would, just give me a call back whenever you get this. Bye.
Darren assumed Latrice might still be asleep, so he decided to shower and then left for work around 7:30 a.m.
On his way to work that morning on I-540, Darren notices traffic is backed up. He then passes a crime scene with yellow tape and a body under a blue tarp.
Darren says he felt a knot in his stomach as he passed the scene, and then just moments later spotted his wife's car.
So you just happened to be driving by, or what? Why'd you stop?
Man, I was on my way to work. I take the 540 every day.
While Darren's story sounds plausible, it seems awfully coincidental to detectives that he discovered his wife's car and arrived at the crime scene before police contacted him.
From the outside, everything looked fine between Darren and Latrice. But was there something about their marriage that no one knew about?
Detectives decide to take Darren down to the station for further questioning.
Darren, unbutton your sleeves, please. Let me see your hands and your arms.
Darren is questioned and photographed. They're looking for cuts and abrasions.
Unbutton your collar up there for me.
There are no outward signs Darren has been in any type of physical altercation. Still, investigators have a few hard questions they need to ask him.
Tell me about you and Latrice. Were you having any marital problems or anything?
No, we loved each other.
Do you mind if we check your house and your car?
You guys can do whatever you need to do.
With Darren's blessing, police search the apartment, but find no signs of a struggle in the couple's home or in Darren's car.
There's absolutely no physical evidence tying him to the crime scene. So without any evidence against him, there's really no reason to hold him.
Okay, Darren. You're gonna be free to leave, all right? But don't leave town.
Detectives released Darren that afternoon, but upon receiving Latrice's autopsy report, they make a shocking discovery.
When the autopsy was done on Latrice Curtis's body, there was a condom found.
This condom found inside her during the autopsy tells law enforcement that she may have had intercourse recently, but it might not have been connected to the homicide.
But judging by her injuries, it doesn't appear Latrice had been raped.
There were no injuries in her genital area consistent with sexual assault.
The discovery, however, raises more troubling questions. For starters, whose condom was it? And could sex have somehow sparked this vicious attack?
Look at this number here.
With this case growing more salacious by the minute,
Does that look familiar?
investigators decide to subpoena Darren and Latrice's phone records.
It's Darren.
Pouring through the call log, Darren's story appears to check out.
So he called her at 10, and the next morning, just like he said he did.
Mm-hmm.
But to their surprise, Latrice also made and received a flurry of calls from another number around midnight before she was murdered.
There's a bunch of calls from that number. It says it comes back to a Stephen Randolph.
Who is Stephen Randolph? The answer to that question would prove to be one of the keys to unlocking the mystery behind Latrice's death. Darren Curtis and his new wife Latrice hope to build a beautiful life together. But those dreams appear to have died on the side of a North Carolina freeway when Latrice was found brutally stabbed to death.
She was really a young woman that was just starting out her life. She had her whole life ahead of her.
Police have already questioned and released Darren. But phone records, along with a condom found inside Latrice's body, have cops wondering if the last person she had contact with, a man named Stephen Randolph, is somehow involved in this crime.
Law enforcement have questions for him. They're going to want to look really closely at Stephen Randolph.
While police begin searching for Stephen, investigators try and flesh out his connection to Latrice. Turns out, Stephen Randolph is one of the most eligible bachelors on NCCU's campus.
Stephen Randolph was a student at North Carolina Central. He was a very attractive young man. He was an athlete. He was a basketball player.
Randolph was trying to establish a career in the NBA as a professional basketball player.
So what's Stephen Randolph's connection to Latrice? While friends aren't 100% certain, they do tell investigators that Stephen and Latrice had definitely grown close in recent months.
Well, Randolph and Latrice met on campus and hit it off right away. Randolph was tall, dark, and handsome, and so I'm sure when Latrice saw him, being the young woman that she was, she definitely found him attractive, especially being a woman who got married at such a young age. I'm sure he definitely piqued her curiosity.
They began socializing there and apparently some level getting interested in each other, perhaps flirting or something to that effect.
Were Stephen and Latrice more than just friends? The only person who can answer that question for certain is Stephen himself. Thankfully, it doesn't take police long to find him. 2 days after Latrice's body is discovered,
Excuse me, officer. Yes, sir.
Stephen walks into the Wake County Sheriff's Office.
Hey, my name is Stephen Randolph.
He walked through the front door of the sheriff's office like a gift.
I'm here to speak with a detective about the Latrice Curtis case.
But Stephen isn't alone.
CID, please.
Standing beside him is his roommate, a local pastor named Robert Reeves.
Stephen Randolph went to the police station with Robert Reeves in tow at Robert Reeves' insistence.
How's it going? How you doing? See you. Hey, Ray, how you doing? Can you take him to my office, please, and I'll get this one?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, if you'll go right this way.
Yes, sir, officer.
Leading Stephen into an interrogation room, detectives get right to work.
So tell me about Latrice and you. How'd you know her?
We had a few classes together. We met back in September. Just friends.
Just friends?
Stephen tells detectives that as their friendship deepened, Latrice would sometimes stop by his house to study.
Okay, so you were just in class together, nothing more than that?
That's it.
But when confronted with phone records, along with the findings of their autopsy report, Stephen begins to backpedal.
I'm gonna go ahead and be honest with you. We had a private relationship.
Latrice came to see Stephen on the night of the murder. It was only the second time she had been there, and they had an intimate encounter.
By Stephen's account, the forbidden nature of the affair only heightened its intensity.
They were just friends. But that relationship evolved into a passionate sexual affair. Latrice was married, Randolph had a girlfriend, and she found herself unable to resist Randolph's attractive charm.
So you wore a condom?
Yes. Actually, the condom got trapped inside of her.
After the couple had sex, Stephen realized the condom he was wearing had come off and remained inside Latrice.
They tried and they couldn't get it out.
Stephen says Latrice told him she'd have better luck removing the condom in the privacy of her own bathroom and left his house around 10 p.m. A few minutes later, Stephen followed suit.
Stephen drove off to clear his head. After driving around for a while, he ended up at his girlfriend's home, Velma Newton.
According to Stephen, shortly after he arrived at Velma Newton's home, Latrice started blowing up his cell phone.
Was just going crazy about it.
And she's very concerned about the condom still being inside of her. She's going home to her husband with another man's used condom inside of her body. And she's talking with Steve about the possibility of her becoming pregnant as a result.
So that's what all the phone calls were about?
Yeah.
It was about that?
Yeah.
So you're telling me you didn't kill her?
No.
Stephen is adamant he had nothing to do with Latrice's murder, but plenty of questions still remain. Why hadn't he been more forthcoming about their sexual affair? And had he really visited his girlfriend, Velma Newton, after having sex with Latrice?
Hey, Reverend, how are you, sir?
Hey, how are you, Detective? I'm good.
Hoping to get to the bottom of things, police turned to Stephen's housemate, Robert Reeves. A 43-year-old pastor, Reeves is affectionately known as the Bishop in Durham's tight-knit evangelical community.
He was a man of God. He was somebody that was dedicated to his job.
He was known as a very charismatic person. He worked as a motivational speaker.
Just got a few questions, if you don't mind. Can you tell me something about Stephen?
Actually, we met at a car wash.
Reeves tells police he met Stephen in late summer of 2007.
Stephen explains that he's fallen on hard times. He's out of money, needs a job, and perhaps a place to stay.
Seemed like a fine young man. I had the room at the time at my house.
Pastor Reeves offered to let Randolph live in a basement apartment in his house and only charged him about $300 a month for rent.
So according to Pastor Reeves, that fall, Stephen moved into the home Reeves shared with his sister. Still curious about the true nature of Stephen and Latrice's relationship, detectives ask Reeves about the events of January 29th. He confirms that Latrice had indeed stopped by their house that evening.
She came by to visit Stephen, and I was actually on my way to a church service.
Pastor Reeves told police that on the night of the murder, he saw Latrice's car parked outside of his house.
Reeves says at 8:15 p.m. he left the house to attend a church service and returned home around 11:30.
When you got back, were there cars there?
No, Stephen and Latrice, both cars were gone. Both cars were gone.
Reeves tells detectives that though he didn't notice anything unusual that night, the following morning, Stephen confided in him about a phone conversation he had with Latrice around midnight, something Stephen hadn't mentioned to police.
During the phone call, Latrice tells Stephen she wants to take their relationship to another level. Stephen tells her that's something he'd rather discuss in person.
He didn't appear to have made any promises to Latrice. It sounds like it may have been more like a roll in the hay. Latrice, it sounds like, was more interested in this long-term relationship.
Based on the new intel provided by Pastor Reeves, police can't help but wonder if Latrice was more serious about their relationship than Stephen. If so, could Stephen have viewed Latrice and her potential pregnancy as a stumbling block on his road to the NBA?
Randolph was trying to establish a career in the NBA, an unwanted pregnancy for a guy who's about to sign a multi-million-dollar contract, or at least if he believes he is, it could be motive for him to not want her around anymore. Latrice is a married woman. She's having sex with Stephen in his apartment, and just after that, she ends up dead. That is a question mark, a red flag for police.
But it isn't the only red flag police uncover when speaking to Pastor Reeves about Stephen.
Steve did have a knife and sword collection he kept at home.
But police had only just begun to tap the surface of this tawdry tale. Soon, a startling discovery would reveal 4 lives on a collision course, a collision that culminated in bloodshed. It's now been more than 48 hours since Latrice Curtis was found stabbed to death along Interstate 540 in Raleigh, North Carolina. While Latrice's killer has yet to be identified, revelations of a torrid affair, as well as the statement of Stephen's roommate, revered pastor Robert Reeves, have police wondering if Latrice's extramarital lover, college hoop star Stephen Randolph, has committed the crime.
Randolph and Latrice was having sex, and it appears that the condom got stuck inside of her. There might be a potential that she's pregnant, and with his desire to be an NBA player, that could be a motive to want to get rid of her.
A motive that seems to dovetail nicely with another startling revelation, that Stephen owns a collection of knives and swords.
We know that this victim was stabbed repeatedly with a knife.
Could one of these weapons have been used in the attack? Police decide to execute a search warrant of Randolph's home and car. But after hours of combing the 2 locations, they find no signs of either a struggle or a potential murder weapon. With their search yielding no evidence, detectives attempt to verify Stephen's alibi. To do so, they reach out to his girlfriend, Velma Newton.
Tell me about that night. Did Stephen come over?
Yeah, he came over to my apartment around 10 o'clock.
According to Velma, Stephen shows up at her house at about 10 o'clock and leaves about 1 o'clock in the morning. This is consistent with what Stephen says about what time he left.
But with the coroner's office placing Latrice's time of death somewhere between 1 and 2 a.m., Stephen's alibi isn't exactly airtight.
Whenever you mix passion into the mix, then now you have a motive for murder. They were involved, and if the other person's heart is somewhere else and they don't want to lose that relationship, or they don't want to be tied to the person that they're passionately involved with, then that can be a perfect recipe for murder.
Velma Newton was asked specifically whether or not there was any unusual behavior on behalf of Stephen that night, the night that Latrice was murdered.
Do you think Stephen may have had something to do with this?
No, there's no way. I mean, he's such a great guy. There's no way he could have done something like this.
Did you have something to do with it?
No.
Is it possible Velma is trying to protect Stephen? Or worse, could she potentially be involved?
No.
But Velma's adamant they're both innocent of the crime. In fact, she believes whoever murdered Latrice Curtis might have been targeting her as well.
She received these very strange, anonymous, threatening phone calls.
They were calling, trying to break us up, pretty much. And they would call over and over and over again.
And the anonymous threats weren't just directed towards Velma.
There were many threatening phone calls to Stephen.
He is warned to stop doing what he's doing or he's going to get hurt, perhaps jeopardizing his dreams of the NBA.
According to Velma, it wasn't long before the threats began to escalate.
One night after leaving Velma's apartment, Stephen goes to his car and discovers all 4 tires had been slashed.
For detectives, it's a stunning turn of events, which suggests someone didn't exactly approve of Stephen Randolph's sexual escapades.
Is this a coincidence? I mean, does this have anything to do with what happened to Latrice? Can these things be related?
CID.
But before detectives can make sense of the slashed tires and menacing phone calls,
Yes, Trooper.
they get a call from State Trooper Isaac Cooper.
The 29th. What time was it?
Cooper recounts a routine traffic incident he investigated along Interstate 540 on January 30th, around 1:30 a.m., just 6 hours before commuters discovered Latrice's body.
I was driving around checking for disabled vehicles. This vehicle was on the shoulder of 540 eastbound. It had its hazards lights on, so I stopped behind it to see if they were okay.
But when Cooper approached the vehicle, he found it empty. At that point, Cooper called in the vehicle's license plate. While waiting to hear back from dispatch, he scanned the area and spotted another vehicle on the opposite side of the freeway.
There was a white vehicle on the westbound side with its hazards lights on also.
Detectives instantly realized that Cooper's description of this second vehicle is a match for Latrice Curtis's car. Cooper explains that before he got a chance to run the second car's plates, dispatchers requested he respond to another incident. But before Cooper pulled away, he got an update on the first vehicle.
I was just checking to see if it was stolen. They ran the tag. They responded to me that the vehicle was not stolen, and it came back to Robert Reeves out of Durham, North Carolina.
That's Robert Reeves, as in Pastor Robert Reeves, beloved minister, friend, and roommate of prime suspect Stephen Randolph. But what's the pastor's car doing on the same road where Latrice Curtis's body was found? The answer to that question would not only divide a community, but force police to consider a motive much more twisted than they had previously imagined. Detectives in Wake County, North Carolina, are trying to solve the gruesome murder of 21-year-old college student Latrice Curtis.
This murder was brutal. This woman was stabbed in her face, her throat, her chest. It was a bloodbath.
In the wake of her death, detectives have discovered that the newly married Latrice had become embroiled in a steamy affair with fellow student Stephen Randolph.
Because Randolph had this extramarital relationship with Latrice and she ends up dead, law enforcement are going to have questions for him.
Randolph's alibi isn't exactly airtight, nor is that of his other girlfriend, Velma Newton. But before investigators can zero in on the couple, the case takes another mysterious turn, one that involves Stephen Randolph's roommate, Pastor Robert Reeves.
There was a trooper driving by that area that night, and he saw Robert Reeves' car on the side of the road.
Not a car like Pastor Reeves, but his actual car. So the question is for Pastor Reeves, how are you going to explain the fact that your car is there in the very place where Latrice is murdered?
Had Stephen Randolph used the pastor's car to stalk and kill Latrice Curtis, then abandon the vehicle by the side of the road? Or was Pastor Reeves somehow involved in Latrice's death?
Have your seat, please.
Detectives have no choice but to bring Robert Reeves back in for another round of questioning.
Let's take it from the top one more time, okay?
Yes, sir.
So tell me again what you did that night.
Robert Reeves said that he was at church earlier in the evening and that he came home and that he stayed home and that he did not drive his car anywhere and that he was not on the side of I-540 that night.
But the pastor also acknowledges it's possible Stephen Randolph borrowed his car.
Bishop had let Steve use the vehicle in the past. He had his own set of keys, so he could use it when he needed to use it, and the bishop had let him do that.
Hoping to verify the pastor's story, police reach out to his other roommate, his sister, Willa Mae Thorpe.
According to Reeves, he's at church, the same church that his sister says she was attending the very same night. The problem with Reeves's alibi is that his own sister blows it out of the water because she says she never saw him there.
Why is Pastor Reeves lying about his alibi? Is he trying to protect young Stephen Randolph? Or could he be involved in the murder of Latrice Curtis?
Pastor, would you mind rolling up your sleeves for us?
As detectives questioned Reeves, they noticed he had some abrasions on his hands and arms.
You want to explain how you got those scratches? They look pretty deep.
Stephen and I were moving a nice desk. I was going backwards and fell. He scraped up this arm a little bit.
Reeves did agree to give a DNA sample. What law enforcement wants to do with that DNA sample is test it against any unknown DNA that they find on the crime scene or on the victim.
Open your mouth for me.
Investigators send Pastor Reeves' DNA sample off to the lab.
We're done.
And wait for the results. In the meantime, they bring Stephen Randolph back in for a second interview.
Did you borrow Robert's car?
Yes, I borrowed his car before, but not recently.
Not only does Stephen deny borrowing Pastor Reeves' car the night of the murder, he claims to have no recollection of the pastor being injured while moving a desk. At this point, Stephen's statement is nearly the polar opposite of the pastor's.
Did he get hurt moving it?
Oh, no.
Injured in any way?
It was simple.
So there was no accident?
No.
But Stephen's not done. He informs detectives that recently the pastor seemed a little nosy, especially when it came to Stephen and Latrice's steamy romance.
He came in my room once after she left, and he was acting kind of weird, real strange.
After Latrice had left, Reeves comes down and enters Stephen's room. Reeves asked Stephen if he had relations with the woman who just left. Stephen said yes, he did.
According to Stephen, that's when Pastor Reeves asked a truly unusual question.
There started to be this very strange sexual conversation where Robert Reeves was asking Stephen Randolph to say and do very uncomfortable things.
He asked Randolph if he had ever considered being a male escort, started asking him questions about the size of his penis, started asking him if he'd ever had oral sex done by a man, trying to persuade him that there's really no difference.
Ultimately, one of the things that he offered Stephen Randolph was he said, if you will give me oral sex, I will not charge you rent.
Stephen says he rebuffed Reeves' sexual advances, and the pastor quickly apologized. But according to Stephen, it was shortly after this bizarre encounter that he and girlfriend Velma began receiving anonymous threats and found their tires slashed. For police, it's a startling accusation. But could it possibly be true? To answer that question, police subpoena Pastor Reeves' cell phone records.
They discovered that Reeves had made several blocked calls to Stephen, blocked calls to Stephen's girlfriend. So in all likelihood, it was Pastor Reeves who was making those threatening anonymous phone calls.
It became clear to investigators that Robert Reeves was jealous of anyone who was with Stephen Randolph because he was infatuated with Stephen Randolph.
Turns out, Reeves has also been hiding a long history of strange sexual behavior.
He had in the past sexually assaulted at least 2 other men or young boys.
He had this different life. He compartmentalized these 2 parts of his life. There was the pastor, and then there was, for lack of a better term, the sexual predator.
But just because Reeves harbored a secret and deep infatuation for his roommate doesn't necessarily mean he killed Latrice. Or does it? The DNA tests conducted on the pastor, as well as Latrice Curtis and her vehicle, provide some shocking new evidence.
Part of that DNA is Latrice's, and you would expect to see that because it's her car. But there's another mixture in there, and that belongs to Reeves. Why is his DNA inside of her car?
To investigators, the answer to that question is becoming increasingly apparent.
The belief is that Robert Reeves followed Latrice Curtis from his home that night to the highway where he killed her.
On February 2nd, 2008, police formally charged Pastor Robert Reeves with the murder of Latrice Curtis. The news leaves friends, family, and Durham's religious community stunned.
When the ball dropped on how this all unraveled, I was very hurt.
I was really angry, you know. I know that if I could have got close to him, that I don't know what would happen, man. I don't know.
There was a complete and utter disbelief from the religious community when he was charged, that they just absolutely had to have the wrong guy.
But prosecutors believe they have the right man. And on September 29, 2009, Robert Reeves is led into a Raleigh courtroom to stand trial for the murder of Latrice Curtis. In their opening arguments, prosecutors paint a chilling picture of a man who'd grown increasingly obsessed with Stephen Randolph. That obsession, they believe, gave way to rage on the night of January 29, 2008.
In Reeves' mind, Latrice was a roadblock in his desire for Randolph.
The belief is that Robert Reeves was watching, and he was jealous because he was obsessed with Stephen, and Stephen had rebuffed his advances.
Prosecutors assert that after Latrice parted ways with Stephen Randolph the night of the murder, Robert Reeves followed her along Interstate 540, somehow convinced her to pull over, then savagely attacked her.
Reeves killed Latrice to get her out of the way because Latrice was having sex with Randolph. And for some sick reason, he thought that if he got her out the way, then maybe Randolph might give Reeves a chance.
But as the defense points out, if jealousy was indeed their client's motive, Why on earth would Pastor Reeves pick a busy interstate as the place to put this plan in motion?
One of the great mysteries of this case was how did Robert Reeves get Latrice Curtis to pull over to the side of the road? But she clearly did pull over. And then this encounter happened.
To bolster their case, prosecutors point to the slew of evidence connecting Reeves to the crime. The DNA, the state trooper report, and the bizarre anonymous phone threats. Next, prosecutors call Stephen Randolph to the stand to testify. In lurid detail, he recounts the night when Pastor Reeves propositioned him.
There were several pastors from other churches that came to support him. Well, when all the facts started to come out, the pastors weren't sitting in the audience anymore.
But with Stephen Randolph on the stand, defense attorneys see an opportunity. They assert that the person with the most to gain from Latrice's death wasn't Reeves, but her lover and NBA hopeful, Stephen Randolph.
Latrice does say these things I said about, let's take our relationship to the next level. I might get pregnant. It might be that Steve felt threatened and trapped, possibly trapped by her, and felt that he needed to do something.
Stephen Randolph had a knife collection, and the defense made a lot about that, saying if anybody had access to knives and knew how to use a knife, it was Stephen Randolph.
The defense also has an explanation for how Pastor Reeves' vehicle ended up at the crime scene around the time Latrice was murdered.
The defense made it clear that there was a possibility that Stephen Randolph could have been driving that car.
It's a compelling argument, but defense attorneys aren't done. They have one more bombshell to drop on the jury. A piece of evidence so startling that some in the courtroom can't help but wonder if the wrong man is standing trial for Latrice Curtis's murder. In a Wake County courtroom, Robert Reeves is on trial for the murder of beautiful college student Latrice Curtis. Prosecutors have alleged the motive behind this crime is the once respected pastor's sexual obsession with Latrice's paramour, Stephen Randolph.
Prosecution's case was Robert Reeves killed Latrice Curtis to keep her away from Steve that he was infatuated with.
But defense attorneys have argued that the man with the most to gain from Latrice's death was Stephen Randolph himself.
The defense argued at trial that it was really Stephen who wanted Latrice dead.
But what about the DNA evidence found in Latrice's car? Defense attorneys argue there's a logical explanation.
The defense at trial attempted to argue that maybe somehow this was some form of transfer DNA.
DNA doesn't stay in one place, it can move. So if she's in that home, she's going to be exposed to all kinds of DNA, particularly on her hands. If she had put her hand on the doorknob, she could pick up the DNA of Robert Reeves. She gets in her hand, she gets in her car, she can transfer DNA.
And as defense attorneys are quick to point out, Reeves' DNA wasn't the only genetic material found at the crime scene.
There was DNA found under Latrice Curtis's fingernails. And that DNA did not belong to Robert Reeves. It belonged to Stephen Randolph.
That really kind of threw me for a loop.
But prosecutors tell the court there's a viable reason Stephen's DNA was found at the scene.
The prosecution argued that that DNA got under her fingernails when she was having sex earlier that night with Stephen Randolph.
As for the defense's transfer DNA theory, prosecutors argue there's simply too much of Robert Reeves' genetic material found at the scene for anyone but the pastor to have committed the crime.
While transfer DNA is possible, it is extremely implausible in this case in light of all the other testimony and evidence, like the fact that Reeves had all of these cuts and scratches on his arms, like the fact that Pastor Reeves claimed to be at church when his sister said he wasn't.
On October 7, 2009, the jury retires to deliberate Robert Reeves' fate. 2 days later, they return with the verdict: guilty.
The defendant, Robert Lee Adams Reeves, was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole.
When they found him guilty, one side of me, okay, we found the right man. Then another side of, this guy's still living. My sister's at a cemetery right now.
While the verdict is met with a mix of sadness and relief, the pain wrought by Reeves' twisted actions still lingers today. especially for Latrice's husband, Darren Curtis.
What did you think you was gonna accomplish killing my daughter? I think he needs to talk to me. He needs to talk to me, man. He needs to man up, and he needs to talk to me, because I haven't figured that part of it out yet.
Darren was just a different person after that. To deal with this situation, that's a hard thing for anybody. I know to this day, just kind of changed him in a way where he very cautious of what he does.
In my opinion, Reeves definitely had some mental issues. He obviously fantasized about being with Randolph, but for him to take it that far of murdering somebody, thinking that he can move them out the way and have an opportunity, is sordid. It's sick.
She was a bright college student who dreamed of a career in law.
She was going into criminal justice and ultimately wanted to become a lawyer.
He was an old flame that always got her heart racing.
They're friends with benefits.
Together, they reconnected in a way neither expected.
She was pregnant with this child. There was nothing that was planned.
She was getting together with the father of her child. She was very happy.
But a few short weeks shy of her due date, a shocking abduction sent their fiery romance up in flames.
Get in there! She feels lighter fluid being doused all over her and then hears a striking of a match.
Next thing she knew, she was on fire. And she hears 2 gunshots. She feels a pain. She knows she's been shot.
In order to capture the assailant, police must enter a sweltering hothouse of lies, deceit, and unspeakable betrayal.
Ma, I've been kidnapped.
Who would ever contemplate harming a pregnant woman? Why would somebody do this in such cold blood?
May 26, 2012, Detroit, Michigan. In the early morning darkness, a frightened 22-year-old woman is fighting for her life. 9 months pregnant, LaTanya Bowman is engulfed in flames. Her first instinct is to try and extinguish the blaze, but as the fire consumes her, LaTanya remains motionless.
She was abducted, bound with duct tape, set on fire, and she heard 2 gunshots. Knowing that she was injured, possibly shot, she made the decision to play dead in an attempt to save her life and the life of her unborn child.
LaTanya's plan works. Believing she is dead, the monster responsible for this crime flees on foot. When the coast is clear, LaTanya puts out the fire and slowly crawls toward her car.
She's gone into survival mode. She's in a lot of pain. This guy leaves the keys in the vehicle. She realizes that and she jumps into the vehicle.
She remembers getting in the car. She really can't see. And she starts driving, and she's not sure what direction.
Despite her life-threatening injuries, LaTanya somehow finds her way to the home she shares with her mother.
Oh my God, what happened to you? Let's go to the hospital. Move over.
Her mother realizes that she's severely injured. Her mother tells her, move over, I'm driving. And then she drives her right to the hospital.
As LaTanya is rushed into the emergency room, doctors are shocked by the severity of her wounds.
And she's got 2nd and 3rd degree burns. And you know that hurts. And she's shot. She is very seriously injured.
They weren't sure if she was going to survive, if the child was going to survive, because she was 9 months pregnant.
Hospital personnel contacts police and inform them there's been a crime. One so gruesome it turns the stomachs of even the most calloused investigators.
When it rises to the level where it makes a detective sort of raise his eyebrows, it's unusual. And this one was brutal. The fact that the victim was pregnant and ready to have the baby, it made it something that was almost personal.
She could give birth at any time. There's nothing more precious than children. And to do that to a mother and her unborn child, I don't know what kind of monster could do something like that.
Overnight, LaTanya's harrowing ordeal makes headlines across the country. Local police are feeling the heat. They need to solve this crime and solve it fast. But as investigators race to piece together the puzzle, an unimaginable picture begins to emerge. One of pure evil and a sucker punch expectant mother LaTanya Bowman never saw coming.
The brutality of what happened to LaTanya Bowman, the diabolical nature of the plan that was hatched, it was horrific.
We think we've seen it all. we're always amazed by what humans are capable of doing to another human.
Growing up in the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan, LaTanya Bowman knew early on what she wanted to do with her life.
She was studying criminal justice in school.
Well, she had that sort of vibrance about her. You know, she was young and hopeful and all the stuff that you look at when you see a young lady who's got the whole world in front of her. You know, she wasn't somebody out there that was working the streets.
A dedicated and popular student, by the time LaTanya turned 21, she was well on her way to fulfilling her dreams. She was a senior at a local community college and was on track to graduate ahead of schedule.
LaTanya Bowman was a very nice, a very articulate, very intelligent person.
She had the whole world ahead of her. She was a hardworking college student and very dedicated to excelling.
And among her legion of friends, there was no one LaTanya enjoyed sharing her hopes and ambitions with more than close friend Jamal Rogers. LaTanya and Jamal had been tight since they first met in high school, nearly 6 years earlier.
Not bad, not bad, not bad.
She thinks that this guy is a great guy. And in fact, she told her mother that he's just the nicest guy she's ever met. She really liked the way he treated her.
Very intelligent and articulate young man. Very, seemed to be streetwise.
Tall, dark, and handsome, LaTanya had long harbored a soft spot in her heart for Jamal. In fact, their connection had never been strictly platonic.
They met, I believe, in high school, and they were together for several years. And they did pretty much have an on-again, off-again relationship. Both of them described it that way, or more like friends with benefits.
While their physical attraction for one another was undeniable, the two friends felt it best to keep their relationship an open one.
It was really a different kind of relationship. LaTanya had seen other people and has had Jamal, and they were both aware of that, but they would still get together and be intimate and enjoy each other's company and talk about things.
But in the fall of 2011, LaTanya and Jamal's relationship took an unexpected turn.
Got some good news for you.
Oh yeah, what's up?
I'm pregnant.
LaTanya wanted him to make the decision to be a part of this child's life, and I really think to be in her life as well. She told her mother that he's a good guy, he's a good friend, and I think she perhaps saw a future with him.
She wanted him to be a part of her and the baby's life.
While LaTanya embraced the idea of parenthood, to her surprise, Jamal didn't share her enthusiasm.
Initially, Jamal was very reluctant to have the baby and initially wanted LaTanya to have an abortion.
You plan on keeping it?
Yes, Jamal, I plan on keeping it. Where did that come from?
I think when she got pregnant, this kind of confused him. So Jamal kind of broke off contact for a while.
What? Jamal.
But by the time LaTanya reached her third trimester, Jamal had rekindled their relationship and was as excited about the baby as she was.
So, what about Glendon?
Glendon? Gillespie.
No.
Come on, that's original. Come on, nobody's got that name. They were discussing names for the baby. This was, getting very close, and they started to go out and see more of one another.
With their relationship back on track, the couple made plans for a date at a local drive-in theater.
Why don't we go to the movies or something? Let's go hit the drive-in or something.
The drive-in?
Yeah. We're not going to have any time once the baby comes, so we might as well go live a little bit.
You got a point.
Exactly, don't I, baby?
In her eyes, she was getting together with the father of her child to talk through some issues that, of course, two expectant parents are going to have to deal with.
On Friday, May 25th, 2012, LaTanya drove her SUV to the home Jamal shared with his mother. After picking him up, the two headed to the nearby city of Dearborn for a midnight showing at the drive-in. As they watched the film, the two reconnected in ways neither expected.
Baby, look. Now, you know I'm always here for you, all right?
Prove it. I don't believe you. I don't believe
What
it
I got to
right
do
now.
to prove it, huh?
I don't know.
Come back.
You tell me.
Come here, girl.
They had sex there in the car at the drive-in.
For LaTanya and Jamal, this passionate encounter seemed to cement the rock-solid nature of their relationship. But little did they know that in a few short hours, their lives would take a horrific turn, leaving a young woman fighting for her life and a community desperate for answers.
All of a sudden, she can smell accelerant. And then she kind of hears a click. And the next thing she knows, she can hear crackling. And it's her hair that's on fire.
Let me see what you got.
LaTanya Bowman and Jamal Rogers had been friends since high school, but it didn't take long for the relationship to become more than mere friendship. In September of 2011, LaTanya became pregnant with Jamal's child. And after shaking off a case of cold feet, Jamal seemed ready to be a loving boyfriend and father.
They sort of rekindled their relationship, I guess, or at least were going to try.
The couple's love for each other seemed so intense that just a few weeks before their child was due, Jamal and LaTanya shared a heated tryst at a local drive-in.
They're watching the movie, and they just kind of get into it a little bit, just a little bit of fooling around.
They had sex there in the car and the SUV at the drive-in that they had went to.
But just when it seemed the couple's relationship couldn't get any more perfect, the unthinkable happened. Early on May 26, 2012, just hours after her and Jamal's romantic evening at the drive-in, LaTanya was abducted from Jamal's garage by an unknown assailant. Bound and gagged, she was lit on fire, shot, and left for dead.
The crime that LaTanya Bowman was a victim of has to rank as one of the most heinous.
I think even for a city like Detroit, the nature of this crime was shocking.
Now, as LaTanya fights for her life and the life of her unborn child in the hospital, police begin to try and piece together what happened. But the key to cracking the case comes down to one important factor.
I needed to talk to the victim. I needed to hear what happened firsthand from her.
Shot in the shoulder and suffering from second and third degree burns, LaTanya has been transferred to the hospital trauma unit. But despite her life-threatening injuries, she's remained conscious throughout her ordeal.
You have this woman, she's in pain because she's been on fire. She was shot twice. She had some severe burns, second and third degree burns. I don't know how she's doing emotionally.
LaTanya, I'm Detective Barnes. Just wanted to ask you a few questions if I could. LaTanya, I know you're hurting, but I'd like to go through the events of last night. Can you just start from the beginning and tell me what happened?
Visibly shaken, LaTanya lays out the frightening details of her abduction.
Jamal and I went to the drive-in, and I drove back home, and he said that he was gonna open the garage door.
Hey, right here. Let me go open up the garage so you can back in.
Okay.
According to LaTanya, Jamal opened the garage. Just as she parked the car, all hell broke loose.
While inside of the garage, they were kind of straightening the car. An unknown person came up and grabbed her and held a gun to her head.
Get out of the car! Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
LaTanya tells detectives she did her best to comply with her assailant's demands.
She's in no condition to fight, being 9 months pregnant, so she just complies with what the gunman asked her to do.
She believed that it was a blackmail. She believed that because of the voice and also the tape didn't cover the bottom of her eyeglasses. So she was able to sort of see just glimpses of the skin on his wrist.
She never sees the person behind her, but her hands are tied up, her feet are bound, her mouth is taped, and she's thrown in the back seat of the vehicle.
Get in the car! I said get in there!
With LaTanya bound and blindfolded, her assailant jumped behind the wheel and took off.
Next thing I know, it felt like we were driving.
Everything happened so quickly, LaTanya isn't sure if Jamal is safe and sound inside the house or had also been attacked.
She's thinking to herself, whatever happened to Jamal, but even more importantly, what's happening to me? How do I protect my baby? How do I get out of this?
LaTanya claims her assailant drove for several minutes before stopping in what seemed to be a remote area. LaTanya hoped her nightmare was nearing an end. Unfortunately, things were about to get much worse.
The gunman had opened the door. It said some things to her. She remembers seeing a white bottle with a red top that she said was charcoal lighter fluid. And then she remembers feeling a liquid being poured on. She could smell a gassy substance. And she said next thing she knew, she was on fire.
As she feels her hair and her body catching fire, she rolls out of the car and begins rolling around frantically trying to put the fire out.
She described the smell of her burning hair, the crackling of her skin burning. It had to be a horrific set of circumstances for her to live through. She struggled to put out the flames, tumbled out of the car.
But as LaTonya attempted to extinguish the flames, she suddenly heard a loud pop.
She hears 2 gunshots, one of which strikes her. Believing that she'll be dead soon, she instinctively plays dead.
Miss Bowman performed an amazingly heroic act of having the foresight, of having the power, the strength, while you're still on fire, to be able to play dead. It is just an amazing thing given those horrific circumstances. And the assailant then walked away.
LaTonya tells detectives that once she was sure her abductor had fled the scene, she put out the flames and shook herself free from the duct tape binding her hands and feet.
I heard him run off. When I thought that he was gone, I crawled to the car.
She doesn't have her cell phone at the time. That was taken by the gunman. She's a gas station she's familiar with. She goes and uses the phone there.
LaTonya doesn't call 911. She's less concerned with her own safety than she is her mother's.
Ma, I need for you to leave the house. I'm coming to get you.
She wants her mother to get out of the house because she thinks her mother is next and her mother's in grave danger. And somehow, even without her glasses, even in great pain, she's not thinking about herself at this point. She manages to get to her mom's house.
Oh my God, what happened to you? Let's go to the hospital. Move over.
Shocked by the sight of her daughter's condition, her mother jumped in the car and rushed LaTonya to the hospital.
It's incredible that she lived. This young woman was her own hero. Whatever choices she made, whatever happened, this young woman thought on her feet. She was able to get herself out of this.
Police are astonished by LaTonya's chilling story. But just what could have prompted the attack? And why was LaTonya so gravely concerned about her mother's safety? Apparently, it wasn't the first time a threat had been made against their family.
She's worried about her mother because 2 weeks earlier, there was an incident where a man came to the door very early in the morning. Mom opens the door. Guy sticks a gun in mom's face. Pulls the trigger, but nothing happens. And he just kind of runs off.
They didn't know who this person was, and they were intimidated by it. And Miss Bowman thought, oh my God, does this have anything to do with that incident? Does this have anything to do with my mother?
Judging by the timing of the 2 events, LaTonya can't help but fear the worst.
She believes the incident that happened at her house a few weeks earlier is related to what happened to her this evening.
We'll be in touch. Get some rest.
For detectives, LaTonya's statement provides the first break in the case. But before they can follow up on this new lead, they must answer an even more pressing question. Is the father of LaTonya's unborn child, Jamal Rogers, alive and well? Or has he met a fate even worse than hers?
Where was Jamal? We needed to go find him.
In Detroit, a terrifying crime has taken place involving the unlikeliest of victims. 9 months pregnant, LaTonya Bowman was abducted, set on fire, and shot. Amazingly, LaTonya tricked her assailant into believing she was dead.
The whole time she's thinking about her baby. And that's what gave her the courage to play dead. And that's courage. Because you already know this guy is willing to try to kill you. And you're making a decision there to do nothing, to play dead in hopes that he believes it. And he did. It saves her life.
And after her attacker fled the scene, LaTonya made her way to the hospital, but not before checking on her mother to make sure she hadn't been targeted as well.
I've been kidnapped.
In speaking with detectives, LaTonya reveals that the assault might be related to a separate incident that occurred only a couple weeks earlier.
2 weeks prior to the attack, an unknown male showed up at LaTonya's mom's house. When she came to the door, he pointed a gun in her face and pulled the trigger. But the gun did not fire. The male then ran off.
Adding to the mystery is the fact that police aren't sure if LaTonya's attacker also went after Jamal, the father of her unborn child. While one team of officers conducts welfare checks at both LaTonya and Jamal's residences, others fan out across the city in an effort to determine the exact location of the vacant lot where the shooter abandoned LaTonya.
Well, the first thing you think of is this guy shoots somebody and then throws the gun in the street someplace and some 3-year-old finds it. It was a top priority to find that gun, the shell casings, anything we could find in relation to the crime.
This was such a cold-blooded act that unless we put an end to it, the assailant would do this again. He was that cold-blooded. Not only did we need to bring justice for LaTonya Bowman, we need to protect society, and we need to take somebody off the streets before he hurts another person.
But given that LaTonya was blindfolded during the attack, locating the crime scene proves easier said than done.
It was difficult for her to describe a lot of the things around her because it was dark and it was pitch black. And she did a great job of getting us close to the area. It's an area that's it's kind of beat up. So you got a lot of abandoned houses, a lot of open lots, a lot of debris. It's got to be a couple square miles at least.
So we drove around hoping to find some evidence of the scene. We were unable to do that. I think we had all 5 of our detectives down there on that day. We probably spent about 2 hours looking.
It's not long before detectives hit another roadblock. Hoping to establish a possible link between LaTonya's abduction and the earlier threat made on her family, detectives reach out to her mother, Angela Beatty.
So I understand from LaTonya that you had some sort of confrontation.
Yeah, it was about 2 weeks ago.
But not only is LaTonya's mother unable to ID the man who allegedly threatened her, she's unsure the two events are even related.
I don't really think it has anything to do with LaTonya at all. I just figured somebody might have just been mad.
LaTonya's mom worked for the city, so sometimes you're dealing with irate citizens, etc. And based on that, she felt it had nothing to do with what happened to LaTonya.
Absolutely not.
Just when it seems like the case has hit a dead end,
Barnes,
detectives receive some promising news from their fellow officers.
you have him there.
Jamal Rogers is alive and well.
Thank you for your time. We need to go.
Officers encountered him during the welfare check of his house, the same house where LaTonya was kidnapped. Detectives are eager to hear his version of the attack.
Jamal Rogers?
Yes?
I need to ask you some questions about LaTonya Bowman.
Surprisingly, Jamal's account of what happened couldn't be more different than LaTonya's.
Jamal said that they left the drive-in theater, came back to his house on Sherman, and parked at the curb.
She dropped you off here?
Yeah, she dropped me off. Yeah, we were out there at the curb, talked for about maybe 10 minutes or so. Then I got out and she drove off.
With Jamal's statement at odds with LaTonya's, detectives wonder if Jamal might be withholding information.
And you're sure she dropped you at the curb?
Yeah, positive.
They were very good friends, and she was pregnant with his child.
That's when Jamal drops a bombshell.
Is there anybody here that can corroborate that?
Yeah, my mom and my girlfriend and my kids.
You have another girlfriend?
Yeah.
And not one, but 2 children.
This is a guy who's getting a little bit of action because he's got a girlfriend right here and a pregnant pal over here.
Given LaTonya's statement and Jamal's startling revelation, detectives can't help but wonder. Could Jamal's girlfriend have orchestrated LaTonya's abduction out of jealousy? And if so, is Jamal now trying to protect her?
We know that Jamal watched this whole incident happen in his garage. He knew more than he was letting on.
Hoping to get to the bottom of this mystery, detectives reach out to a number of Jamal's neighbors. They're hoping to glean additional information about the attack on LaTonya. They catch a break when someone in Jamal's neighborhood tells them they saw Jamal and LaTonya return home from the drive-in the night of the crime.
Apparently there's this character who lives in the neighborhood, and this guy had his eyes open, and he saw them go into that garage, backing into the garage with LaTonya.
With an eyewitness backing LaTonya's story, police decide to bring Jamal in for further questioning. Detectives press Jamal to explain why his version of events is so different than either LaTonya's or his neighbors.
He says they're kind of fooling around a little bit. They decide to leave the drive-in movie. He says, take me home. We can finish where we left off at the movie theater. He instructs LaTanya to pull into this detached garage from his home so they can finish what they supposedly started at the movie theater.
I said, you know, that guy who walks the block all day, he lives down the street, he owns that minivan. And Jamal said, yeah, I know him. And I said, did you know he walks around all night too? And he saw you pull into the garage. So you need to tell me the truth. You pulled into the garage. Jamal changes his story and says, yeah, they did pull into the garage.
So you're out of the car? Yes. So you had to close the garage door. She obviously didn't do it, right? Yes.
But before Jamal talks about what happened next, he suddenly has a change of heart.
I think at that point in time, he kind of stopped and realized that I'm about to say something I probably shouldn't. And he said,
I think I remember. You want a lawyer? Yeah.
Basically, lawyers up, clams up. That's it. He's done.
Jamal's sudden reluctance to talk raises more than a few red flags with detectives. They decide to hold him in county jail on suspicion of murder. But they're still uncertain whether Jamal's girlfriend could be personally involved. Interviewing her that day, detectives are stunned by what she tells them.
What can you tell me about LaTanya Bowman?
I really don't know that name.
I don't believe that either of the women knew of the other. At least there was no indication at that point.
Okay, well, were you aware that Jamal was seeing Miss Bowman?
No, I was not.
his girlfriend, she doesn't know about LaTanya, or that Jamal is going to be the father of LaTanya's unborn child.
The fact that Jamal's girlfriend has no idea he's been sleeping with LaTanya seemingly undermines any motive she might have to try and kill her. It also places Jamal alone at the top of the suspect list.
We didn't consider the current girlfriend a suspect, and we believed their relationship at that point didn't come into play.
Desperate for physical evidence, investigators turn their attention to LaTanya's SUV.
Her vehicle was seized as evidence. It was taken to our police department. We did a search warrant on the vehicle. And inside the vehicle, there's some pieces of burned clothing, but there was also a roll of black Gorilla duct tape, which was similar to the duct tape pieces that we found in the front seat that had been on her body. We believe that that was the duct tape used by the gunman.
However, DNA tests conducted on both the clothing and duct tape failed to connect Jamal or anyone else to the crime. The case appears to be at a standstill.
The only thing I had going for me at the time was kind of a little bit of hope. I wanted Jamal Rogers to talk to me again. He was my connection. You know, he was the guy that we needed to find out who this other assailant was.
A few hours later, Detective Barnes' hopes are realized when Jamal Rogers does a surprising about-face.
I almost started to move on to what's the next step going to be? How are we going to identify this other person if Jamal Rogers is not going to give him up? And I walked him all the way back to his cell. And just as I put him in his cell, he said, "Can we talk?"
What does Jamal want to say? He's already lied to investigators once. Would this time be any different? Or is Jamal about to provide detectives with a piece of information that will break the case wide open? On May 26, 2012, expectant mother LaTanya Bowman was kidnapped from inside the garage at the home of her boyfriend, Jamal Rogers. LaTanya was then lit on fire, shot, and left to die in a vacant lot.
Well, she's been on fire and then she feels a gunshot. She decides to play dead.
Miraculously, LaTanya survived the terrible ordeal, and the subsequent investigation has led police to the father of her unborn child, Jamal Rogers.
We believe that he was complicit in this abduction and attempt murder.
While initially reluctant to cooperate with police, after being taken into custody, Jamal decides to talk.
His body language changed. He knew that his original lie wasn't going to work.
And he finally says, "You know what? I do want to talk." He tells cops, "I know who did this."
For detectives, it's a much-needed break in the case.
I just told him that I'm not going to go sit down there and speak to you for 2 hours unless you're going to give me something, so you're going to have to give me a name. And he said, Antonio Valentine Mathis.
Antonio Mathis is no stranger to law enforcement.
Antonio Mathis is also a pretty well-known thug in the neighborhood. He's been in jail, he's done some time, and he's just a really bad guy. And he also happens to be pals with Jamal Rogers. He's his roommate.
Jamal described their relationship said they were like brothers. He'd allowed Antonio to watch his kids. He just trusted him that much.
According to Jamal, he'd recently confided in Antonio about some problems he was having with LaTanya, and his friend offered to lend a hand.
What'd you say to him?
I said I didn't really want to have another baby.
I don't want to have another baby, man. I can't deal with this, that kind of a thing.
Yes.
So he said,
I could take care of it.
Jamal tells detectives he had no idea what Antonio meant when he said he could take care of it, and he was surprised to find Antonio in his garage when he and LaTanya returned home from the drive-in.
I did say something to him when I seen him showing to the car. I was just, what are you doing? What are you doing? What is this about? And he's just like, I got you. Don't worry about it.
Jamal insists Antonio acted on his own.
I didn't ask him to do it. I didn't ask him to do anything.
Jamal's position was that Antonio took this on his own accord and thought to himself, hey, why don't I help Jamal out and somehow help terminate the baby, get her upset or whatever.
Detectives are anxious to speak with Antonio Mathis. They search the neighborhood where he and Jamal live, but can't find him anywhere. At least not until an unexpected tip comes in.
We received a phone call. It was an anonymous phone call. I learned he was going back over the Sherman address. In fact, our officers were sitting on the crime scene. He was arrested.
Even with Antonio in custody, detectives' hopes of getting a confession are soon dashed.
when they got back at 1:30, you're in the garage. I never came back to the house that night. I came back to the house the next morning. He's lying about everything. I don't know.
Antonio denies any knowledge of this whole event. He says he just got pointed out as a guy that, because he had a record, he would be a good fall guy.
Antonio also claims he has an airtight alibi. He was with his girlfriend the night of the crime.
She's going to be your alibi for the whole night. I mean, that's all it is. What's her name?
The assailant's alibi was a friend of his, Tanisha McCaddy. She picked him up at midnight and drove him to another girl's house. That girl, Crystal King, was with him at the time of the assault.
Investigators suspect Antonio's alibi is bogus. And after speaking with Crystal King and Tanisha McCaddy, that suspicion is justified.
The timeline that he gave us was totally inconsistent with what had actually happened, according to Tanisha McCaddy and his girlfriend.
Tanisha and Crystal both state that Antonio didn't hook up with them until the morning after the crime, which supports the theory that Antonio was the gunman who attacked LaTanya Bowman. But did Antonio act alone? Or did he and Jamal conspire to murder Jamal's pregnant girlfriend? In order to elicit more information from their two prime suspects, detectives make a bold play.
Cops are pretty clever. You know, they're going to start playing these two guys against each other.
I thought we maybe would talk to Jamal again and see if maybe he'd give us a little bit more.
You have two suspects. They're going to point fingers at each other.
He claims he's innocent. Wasn't anywhere near you and LaTanya. And he's got an alibi and witnesses.
Man, he lying.
Jamal, you're going to have to give me something concrete or I'm going to have to let him go. And you're going to go down for the whole thing.
I was kind of acting a little mad at him. I told him, this is your last chance. You're going to give me some evidence that I can corroborate. Or that's it. We're done talking.
The two words Jamal utters next will lead detectives to the unlikeliest of locations. A location that will bring them one step closer to putting LaTanya's true attacker behind bars. Police now believe Jamal Rogers is responsible for the attempted murder of LaTanya Bowman, the mother of his unborn child. But Jamal insists he's innocent and pins the crime on his best friend and roommate.
Man, he lying.
He's going to roll over on his buddy, this guy named Antonio Mathis.
He really blamed Mr. Mathis a lot, that Mr. Mathis had just ruined his life.
Jamal claims that shortly before the attack on LaTanya, he made an offhand comment about not wanting another child. Unbeknownst to Jamal, Antonio took his comment seriously and without his knowledge, orchestrated the hit on Jamal's pregnant girlfriend. However, when Antonio was arrested, he claims no knowledge of the attack on LaTanya.
Antonio said he didn't do anything. It's all Jamal.
Mr. Mathis' statement was that he felt that he and Latanya Bowman had both been done over wrong by Mr. Rogers, and that he was just as much a victim as her, that he was very sympathetic towards everything that she had been through, and that she should know in her heart of hearts that it wasn't him that did this.
According to Antonio, he was with his girlfriend Crystal King and pal Tanisa McCaddy the night of the crime. But Crystal and Tanisa tell detectives that's simply not the case.
We knew we had the right guy. The question is, do we have enough to make it stick?
The other question is whether Antonio acted alone, as Jamal Rogers claims, or whether the two men conspired to attack Latanya.
He's thrown you under the bus. He's going to do whatever he can to save his own ass right now.
He already did. He already did.
He told us he told you not to do anything to her. You know what that looks like? You went out and did this on your own.
In an effort to uncover the truth, detectives then decide to play Jamal and Antonio against each other.
Jamal, you're going to have to give me something concrete, or I'm going to have to let him go, and you're going to go down for the whole thing.
Fearful of taking the fall for the crime all by himself, Jamal offers 2 words.
Jamal says,
Home Depot.
I drove him to Home Depot right before I went to go to the movies with Latanya.
Operating off this information, detectives reach out to a nearby Home Depot. They are able to confirm that the gloves and duct tape found in Latanya's car were indeed purchased there.
Home Depot was nice enough to provide us with the exact items that he purchased from their shelves. So we had SKU number for the duct tape. We had the exact type of Gorilla duct tape, the exact gloves he bought.
Detectives confront Antonio Mathis with this evidence, but Antonio remains adamant he had nothing to do with the crime.
He says, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what he was going to do with this stuff. But I guess he forgot. Home Depot has security cameras.
Police are confident that if the surveillance footage places Antonio at the store, they'll have enough probable cause to charge him with attempted murder. Detective John Barnes screens the security footage, but after 90 minutes, there's still no sign of their prime suspect.
I thought he lied. You know, and Antonio hasn't come into the store. It's an hour and a half after when he told me that they went to the store. And I almost started thinking, what do we do now? Now that we don't have this piece of evidence.
But just as he's about to give up, Detective Barnes finally hits pay dirt.
Right there, look.
I think it was around 9:55 p.m., 5 minutes before the store closed. In walks Antonio Mathis. I knew right then that we'd locked Antonio Mathis into this.
The security video from the Home Depot store was like a game of Clue. They had the duct tape, they had gloves, all purchased, all on tape, matching the stuff that was used in the crime.
There he goes. He's got the gloves and he's got the duct tape.
Yep.
That's what we've been looking for.
Even with this video evidence, detectives are still fairly confident that Antonio didn't act alone. They believe Jamal Rogers, already saddled with 2 young children, couldn't bear the thought of having to support another child with Latanya. And when Antonio told Jamal he could make his problem go away, Jamal jumped at the offer.
I think that Antonio was, I guess, somewhat of a sociopath. I think that Antonio told Jamal, I can take care of this for you. And by take care, we know that means kill her and the baby, and the problem goes away.
They had a game plan, and they needed to complete their act quickly because they had a deadline, the deadline being the birth of the baby.
On May 29, 2012, police officially charged Jamal Rogers and Antonio Mathis with unlawful imprisonment, assault with intent to commit murder, and conspiracy. News of Jamal's arrest adds insult to Latanya's already devastating injuries.
I think she loved him, and she didn't want to believe it. She didn't want to believe that he was capable of something like this. And I could understand.
Ironically, the same day charges are filed against the 2 men, Latanya gives birth to a healthy baby boy.
The baby is fine. Mom, Latanya, is apparently recovering physically. This is an incredible story of courage and survival.
Over the next year, Latanya also begins to heal emotionally as she waits for justice to be served.
She went through some tough times, and we weren't going to rest. Not from day one, not until this is over with, and we get the results that she deserves.
On May 22, 2013, the trial of Jamal Rogers and Antonio Mathis begins in a Macomb County courtroom. In their opening statement, prosecutors assert Jamal Rogers, not wanting to be a father again, asked his friend Antonio Mathis to kill his pregnant girlfriend, LaTonya Bowman.
Obviously, Mr. Mathis was supposed to kill Miss Bowman. She was totally blindsided by the violence that she was subjected to at both of their hands.
Prosecutors then lay out the evidence tying Antonio to the crime. The duct tape and the gloves found in LaTonya's SUV, as well as the security footage that shows Antonio Mathis purchasing them the night of the attack.
Having the Gorilla duct tape in that courtroom and being able to show them, this is what was bought and this is what we found in the car. And them actually seeing that purchase made, that was huge.
After presenting the physical evidence, prosecutors turn to their star witness, LaTonya Bowman. Everyone in the courtroom is mesmerized as she gives a blow-by-blow account of her nightmarish abduction.
She was very calm in her testimony, which is kind of typical of her actions throughout this ordeal. I think the jury was absolutely listening to every word that she said and were undoubtedly impacted.
She was clearly sympathetic, given what she had been through. But more importantly than being sympathetic, she was genuine, strong, honest, and came off great.
On the stand, LaTonya admits she had a hard time believing that Jamal was involved in the crime. But she also refutes Jamal's claim that they had sex the night of the abduction.
She denied the sex at the drive-in theater. Jamal seemed to be totally baffled by that, why she's saying that. You know, that was a big part of his case.
But not everything LaTonya testifies to bolsters the prosecution's case. Her inability to concretely identify her assailant is a boon for the defense.
She readily admitted that the defendant was shorter than the man that she felt had abducted her. She really didn't pinpoint my client as being the person that abducted her.
Beyond LaTonya's testimony, the defense also argues that Jamal and Antonio's DNA was never found on the gloves and duct tape, nor was there the usual paper trail left behind when one person solicits another to commit murder on their behalf.
We had shown that there was absolutely no financial things happening between Mr. Rogers and Mr. Mathis. There was no withdrawals or anything like that on Mr. Rogers' part. There was no deposits on top of Mr. Mathis, like there normally might be if somebody's asking somebody to commit a crime from them, short of a hit or whatever, and you're going to pay them and some motivation like that.
Despite LaTonya's heroic turn on the stand, there seems to be nothing but some security footage linking Antonio to the crime and zero physical evidence implicating Jamal. A guilty verdict seems unlikely. But before the jury weighs in, the prosecution will unveil a surprise witness, one whose shocking testimony will be the deciding factor between two men walking free or being locked up for life. After an intense few days in the courtroom, the trial of Jamal Rogers and Antonio Mathis for the attempted murder of LaTonya Bowman is wrapping up. Armed with a security tape of Antonio purchasing items that were used in the crime, along with LaTonya's gripping testimony, the prosecution is feeling confident.
We were all of the mind that we presented the best case we could possibly present.
But defense attorneys argue there's simply no proof that their clients plotted any murder.
I got up and I tried to indicate that, listen, whatever happened by the assailant, whether it be Mr. Mathis or not, but nothing is attributable. There's no allegations of any threat of even one hair on her body by Mr. Rogers. There's no actual concrete evidence of any sort that there was any kind of conspiracy between the people.
However, prosecutors still have one last witness on the docket, Antonio's friend, Tanisa McCaddy. On the stand, Tanisa reveals a detailed conversation she had with Antonio shortly after the attack on LaTonya.
McCaddy. She said he was unusually quiet. Usually got a little more energy than what he was showing at that point in time. And she asked him what was wrong, and he didn't want to tell her. And he just said nothing, but I need you to stay away from me for a while. And she thought that was unusual because they see each other at work.
If I remember, the exact words may have been, we did some awful to a pregnant woman. So she did testify to that in court, and that certainly didn't sound good at all.
Well, this guy, Antonio Mathis, is a real brain surgeon. I mean, who actually does something like this? And then they talk about it and even brag about it. But that's what Antonio did. And that's what also helped police nail him to the wall.
But is it enough to convince the jury that both Antonio and Jamal were involved in the crime? After 3 hours of deliberations, the jury returns with their verdict. They find Jamal Rogers and Antonio Mathis guilty on all charges.
The first thing we all did is, after hearing guilty of all charges, is we all looked at Miss Bowman and we all went and hugged her, and we're extremely satisfied, professionally satisfied, that we took care of her, we took care of her son, and the right thing happened.
2 months later, the two defendants are sentenced to life in prison. The judge has some particularly harsh words for Jamal.
Even though you did not light the match or pull the trigger, you orchestrated perhaps one of the most heinous crimes imaginable. You diabolically and in cold blood plotted, schemed, and arranged the murder of your unborn child.
Jamal, once he's sentenced, basically blows a kiss to the audience. It's incredible arrogance.
For LaTanya Bowman, the sentencing serves as a bittersweet end to her tragic relationship with Jamal. And while the physical and emotional scars wrought by his betrayal still linger, LaTanya refuses to be defined by what happened that fateful night in 2012.
You'd think it just ruined you, and it didn't ruin her. Even though you have these kind of people out there, and this kind of evil out there, that good comes through.
I hope she one day uses this courageous experience of how she was able to save herself and her unborn child, and she can give some counsel to other women. She'll probably save some lives.